Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, in 2023, E3's got no big three. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined as I am always joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you this week. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, all skipping out on E3 this year. And then on Thursday, we are coming up with movies that should have gotten the Goldeneye 007 treatment. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. I have not been able to have a haircut on the regular schedule that I normally would.
What is your regular haircut schedule?
I would say probably about like once a month.
Oh, okay.
I probably go get a haircut.
But you did get a haircut yesterday.
No.
Did you not get a haircut
No.
Saturday?
No.
Is your hair pre-cut right now?
My hair is due for a cut. It's overdue for a cut because I
could have sworn your hair was longer on Saturday.
No, it was poorly kept on Saturday,
Got it.
Part of the problem. Like I normally would have it when to go get a haircut.
Right.
By this point, but I got stitches on the back of my head a couple of weeks ago, and so I didn't go to get a haircut because I thought it would be weird to get like the front half done. Fine for Zoom meetings.
It's great for Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Like you need nothing more. I think what you need to do is you need to go back to like the 2020 days and
self-administer a haircut. I might need to. I mean, once I get the stitches out, like I'm basically driving directly to the barber, but I just have to tell you. So
the barber can't remove those stitches.
Well, they could. I think. I believe. But no, the thing that's really driving me crazy is that the side of my head, like the hair, is kind of growing out. Okay. Do you know in the Doctor Strange movies, one thing that really
that streak of white hair,
and not just the streak of white hair, but the way that it is like styled and kept, I find really skin crawling. I really strongly dislike that wig. So imagine my horror when I look in the mirror and I basically feel like I kind of have the Doctor Strange thing
you're basically
going.
the modern Doctor Strange.
That's the compliment I was fishing for. We can move on.
All right, great. So my copy of Sonic Forces, you can't borrow it anymore. That program is over. It is ended. The sun has set on the Sonic Forces borrowing program, but you know where the sun has not quite set yet, Mark? The Sonic Forces owning program. Would you like to own my copy of Sonic Forces and or my copy of Untitled Goose Game? I guess not and, just or. In a Sonic Forces box. We are giving it away. We're giving away both games to end the program. They will go out one last time. If you would like to be considered as one of the future forever owners of these games, you have got to email us by the end of today, January 31st.
That's right. So the Sonic Forces borrowing program is coming to an end.
Yes.
But the Sonic Forces owning program also coming to an end.
Which doesn't mean that you have to stop owning it. You just, this is your last chance to put yourself up for consideration for owning it.
Yes. It has been fun to see the amount of people who are now who want to own Sonic Forces.
Right. People coming out of the woodwork who were like, I don't want to borrow that. That's too temporary for me. Own it? Yeah, I'm into that.
So today's your last day.
You need to email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And entrance from anywhere. It does not matter. Previously, we had said probably just North America, but now one way these packages are going anywhere on Earth. If you want to try entering from like the International Space Station, like go for it, or from the moon. If you have an address on the moon, I'll try sending it there.
And this Thursday's episode, we will draw the names of the two people who will be final owners.
Final owners. I gotta say, I will not be sad to see these games go. They've gotten slowly beaten up over the years, being sent out, sent back. and right now they're on my shelf with the rest of my Switch games, and they're a little beat up, like they're a little weather worn. They've been all over the place.
They're
Mark.
well loved.
Yeah.
I do. Somebody brought this up on our Discord, but I do think it would be fun to compile a list of everywhere that they went.
If you think I have those records, Mark, you are overestimating how carefully I administered this program.
And it is, of course,
a
perfect
program.
Yeah.
Of course. Both borrowing and owning. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. I want to start by checking in on my Tetris 99 progress because I don't have a ton of updates there. I now have 530 tickets. I have made it my goal now where I'm going to get at least 20 tickets a week. And that way, it'll still take me forever to accomplish this, but then I can sort of forgive myself for not doing it every day.
And that's 5 days a week in order to get 20 tickets?
That's 5 days a week. And then every now and then there's a weird T-spin challenge where it's get 5 T-spins in a single online game, and I usually am not going to be able to do that.
Oh, got it.
So sometimes I'll only get 3. So just the overall goal is 20 every week. Even though I expect I will probably end up getting more because I'm still basically doing it every day. Every now and then there'll be a day where I'm like, oh shoot, I missed it. But I still have genuine fun every time I do it.
I feel like we're gonna have to celebrate when you reach 999.
Yeah,
we'll have to mark the occasion somehow.
We will. I'm not sure what exactly, but we'll figure it out. And then, Mark, I got my copy of Fire Emblem Engage.
Nice.
So I've been playing. First of all, I gotta say the Divine Edition of Fire Emblem Engage is a very handsome special edition. I'm content with the time that I had to wait to get it.
It ended up arriving on Tuesday, right?
It ended up arriving on Tuesday.
Technically,
1 full day.
they delivered it early.
I don't. Why are you saying that's early? The game came out 5 days before that. It's late, Mark. But the art book is very handsome. I have had a hard time putting it away. I just like to keep it out.
Yeah, the cover is it's artwork that they use in the opening moments of the game when they're kind of explaining the world, and
yeah.
it is really striking on
Yeah.
that book.
And also just the texture of the cover of the book is I like rubbing my hand across it. So that's great. Started playing the game, and I can see, Mark, your complaints, and I understand them, and I actually agree completely. But I'm really enjoying my time with the game so far. I think I may, if I can, turn off the voice acting because I think a lot of it's bad.
I think you can. I think in settings you can turn it, maybe if not off, but way down compared to the other stuff. The music's good.
The music, that is true. The music is good. However, and maybe I always have this opinion of the Fire Emblem theme songs, and I just need it to grow on me. But I don't like this Fire Emblem theme song. It comes out the gate just screaming. Every time you start up the game, it's right in rock and roll mode right away.
There's something about it, and I felt this way about the lyric theme song around
Three Houses.
Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Oh, yes.
I don't remember the one from Three Houses, but it's these. I wonder if it sounds better in Japanese because it does not sound to me like a song that should have lyrics. It sounds like a musical piece that has lyrics stapled onto it, and so the lyric it just doesn't it doesn't feel like a song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there is something to the the localization of a song from Japanese to English seems like it's impossible, right? There must be a different values of lyricism in Japanese than there are in English, because I think it's always tough. You can, with very few exceptions, always tell that a song has been translated from Japanese.
Because that's what I'm assuming is happening, because they just it just feels like they have to cram so many words into these, just breathless.
Yeah, and it's it's way more syllables than you would ever try in English, and it's we gotta just pick do something different here. You use some different words. But hold on, I just want to here's the Fire Emblem Three Houses theme. This is the one with lyrics that eventually grew on me. Do you recognize this at all?
No. Oh, yes.
And like it starts kind of chill, right? And it builds up to being like super intense. So
yeah, that one's pretty good.
That one that like actually gets me excited. Should I bring up the I don't even know what the new one is called.
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up. It's too slow here. But so I just finished chapter 7. So I'm like amassing my team. I'm getting like a lay of the land. I understand who like all the kingdoms are now, or not all of them, but like the two that I'm dealing with at the moment. And I'm excited to head back to the Somniel to collect my Fire Emblem Three Houses ring. So I can.
Oh, so did you ended up you did buy the, or did it come with the?
No, it didn't come with it. I
with the special
bought
edition.
it.
You bought the season pass. I
bought the
I
season
get
pass.
it. Like I said last week, when I found out that the like summoned characters like actually interact with you and talk and have dialogue and stuff,
Yes.
it's like, oh, I completely get the appeal of getting these Three Houses characters.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that like just by looking at the game, it's pretty evident that there's no romancing of these characters. Like you know what there are. I don't see any S support classes. Just up to A. And I'm still finding characters in there that I'm like, you're hot. I think you two should be together. So I'm doing a little shipping on my own, but I wish the game facilitated that a little more. Have you gone back to it since last we
No,
spoke?
I haven't, and I don't really miss it, so I
Yeah.
think it's probably a sign that I doubt that I will. But maybe if your experience, like the further you get into it, you're like, no, you have to play it. Like it gets amazing. Because I didn't think it was bad. It just didn't grab me. I still think presentation wise, it's really pretty.
I sort of can't get over how pretty it is. Like especially just considering the like kind of recent releases on Switch that like this is just like so sharp and the designs are so good.
And the color is so like the color choices
color
I think are
pops.
really really
Even if I don't
strong.
like the red and blue hair and eyes of the main character.
So last week I talked about there was like a segment, like a moment of dialogue that just kept going and going. I just could not believe
Yes.
it did not end. And you're past it now, so can I tell you what it was?
Sure.
So minor spoilers for the first 30 minutes of Fire Emblem Engage. So when you meet your mom,
Yes.
and then your mom dies,
Yes.
and her like dying speech
Yes.
is so long.
It goes on forever.
And she just keeps talking.
She just keeps talking, and like it adopts a like sentimentality of and look, it's the main character's mother dying, so like I maybe you have to swim in these waters, but I don't know. It adopts this tone like you have known these characters for hours and hours and hours, whereas you've really only been playing the game for like 45 minutes at this point.
Yeah, and even right before that, like the whole thing is they don't really have any relationship because you've been asleep for 1,000 years.
Because you have amnesia too,
right? You have amnesia, and you don't even know that you don't recognize her when she's like,
Right.
"I'm your mom." You're
Right.
like, "Huh? I guess I love you."
I must. You're my mother.
Yeah.
Also, she's a dragon, and you're a dragon too. So, like, they're all like these layers of relationship that you have to be like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would miss my mom too, but like, I do not currently relate to this.
Uh-huh. But from what I've heard, who if people are like significantly further than I am, or maybe not that much farther than you are. I think I'm at chapter 5 or 6 or
Sure.
something. But just from people who are at chapter 10, it sounds like the story gets interesting. I love the world. I love this kind
The
of
world's
like
fantastic,
circular
yeah.
world with the 5 or whatever different continents, and then the
And,
like sacred continent,
the
in the
religion
middle.
stuff in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the design of it, there's so much I want to like, but the mechanics of it, for whatever reason, just aren't speaking to me.
Well, so the gameplay mechanics I do find fascinating. And the canvas feels wider than it has in previous games, just because of the way that you can assign different units of yours the emblems, the rings that they're paired up with, because it can change like the functionality of any of your units in like a huge way, right? Sigurd, when he's teamed up with someone, can make their movement like insane. Like you can get someone like flying all the way across the map to like either come out of nowhere to assist, or I mean like whatever, you can just cover a lot of ground. And then there's also one of the other ones that has the like Ragnarok like teleport, where like you teleport across the map
Oh,
and then
yeah.
like cast some really powerful magic. So like it is like game changing in those moments to have these emblems that like buff your character so much. So like there are some times where I feel like I've put the rings on just the right people, and I can like mop up a map like way quicker and way more efficiently than I think it wants me to. And it just seems cool that like it's open enough that you can break it that way.
That is fun. I feel like that's one of the hallmarks of like older Final Fantasy games,
Mm-hmm.
where when you if you figure out how to really like abuse a particular system,
Totally.
the game lets you if you can like figure it out. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Use a phoenix down on the ghost train, brings it back to life. It's a ghost, so it dies. Like that's like that kind of thing is very cool. And I've just enjoyed doing that. I do a little bit worry then that I will come up against the times when the game is like anticipating my ability to use these emblems, and I just get like stomped. But then I'll spend some time in the paralogs and leveling up and stuff like that. Like I'm not too worried.
I like for the most part what I saw. So I was still early, just had a handful of characters that could join my party. But you meet like a queen or a princess of another realm, and she's wearing this like
she's like wearing a teapot.
She's wearing like a teapot with like an area for her legs. It's just so funny. I love it. I love it so much. I think it's a great design.
The designs in this game are mostly funny. Every now and then there are outfits where it's like there are too many cutouts. I don't need to see your hips.
Yeah.
Like I don't get it.
But if I were a drag queen,
sure, yes.
I would look at this
You would
game.
wear a teapot.
I
yes.
would look at this game and I'd say, "Oh, that is something I should build. That is something I should wear."
It's a good point. I wish there were more characters that I could like ascribe male drag with, where it's like you are performing masculinity, and there's less of that. Whereas like the opposite is in abundance.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's definitely true.
There is you must have it in your party like Boucher or Bouchard. I forget exactly.
Is that the
he's
like
tall? He wears armor and he's like handsome.
Oh yeah. My Fire Emblem engaged boyfriend.
Yeah. No, my Fire Emblem engaged boyfriend. I unlocked a support conversation between him and I believe his name is Alex. He's the prince of one of these realms. Because Alex is just obsessed with other people's muscles. When he has an emblem possess him or embody him, when they merge, he says, "My muscles are yours." So like he's just always thinking about muscles. But he's kind of a little guy. He basically sexually harasses this Bouchard guy, who's like visibly uncomfortable with talking about his own muscles. And I was just like, I'm on your side. I'm on your side, buddy.
Well, I've been playing Goldeneye 007, which was released for Nintendo Switch Online. Kind of a surprise. I can't remember. Did we talk about it?
We did not, because
it happened afterwards, right?
I think they announced it on Wednesday and it came out on Friday. It was really quick, which also sort of bumped Mario Party 3 out of the sort of like
giving us a little break from the Mario Party releases,
which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
For something totally different in the form of GoldenEye 007. So tell me about your experience playing it.
So I have not had a chance to try the online yet, but somebody in the Discord suggested that we should get together and do it, and I think that would be super fun. So we should coordinate that. And if you want to get in our Discord, send us an email, and we'll get you an invite. But I had not ever played through the entirety of the GoldenEye 007 campaign. I mostly played a lot of multiplayer with friends.
Right.
And so I've made it a goal for myself to play through the campaign, and it is really interesting. So
let's talk about how you're controlling it, because I feel like that is a key component of this game and how it translates from 30 years ago.
Yeah, so I started playing in handheld mode. And so, I was just using like 2 Joy-Con, and the default control scheme broke my brain. You use the right stick to move your character and the left to move the camera by default, which is the opposite of basically
Everything.
any
Yes.
game
Yeah.
ever nowadays. So it's horrible and unusable, in my opinion. Like, it just totally broke my brain. It felt insane. So there's a bunch of different recommendations online. I found some on Reddit on like how to remap the controls, because you can, using the system settings, remap controls for your Switch, and then save those as like you can
like
save those
profiles,
options.
yeah.
You can as profiles, you can go to them. I'd never done it before, so this was my first time trying that, but it turned out really well. So the one that I found that worked for me is you go in. So in the game itself, they have 4 or 5 different control schemes. And so
that you can only access once you enter a mission.
Yeah, that's right. So I changed it to one called Good Night, and then in the system controller settings, changed ZR, that trigger, to A, so that way I could fire with ZR, and then swapped the right and left control sticks to make it more just like a modern action game, like first-person shooter. So you're now moving your character with the left stick and kind of manipulating the camera with the right stick. And that I have found to work really well. I also pulled out my N64 controller for Nintendo Switch and like played a little bit that way, and it worked fine. It definitely feels like natural to play with it, but but I didn't. I mean, once I got over the learning curve of how to hold a Nintendo 64 controller again.
Right. With your teeth, right?
I mean, honestly, that seems as good a way as any. But I was actually surprised after playing with the Joy-Con and then going to the N64 controller and then going back. Like, the N64 controller doesn't feel hugely superior to me. One thing I haven't had a chance to do is try to play with 2 N64 controllers, because
that's crazy.
Because that's a true control scheme that the game was
built,
that offers, where you could have 2, so one controlling like true dual analog control. Another thing that's interesting is that Rare's Nintendo 64 games, and I did not know this until Goldeneye was released on Switch, is that Rare's Nintendo 64 games all had built-in 16:9, so like widescreen support. So with
all of them do?
Yeah.
So does Banjo-Kazooie?
That's my understanding. Is that all of them did. And so in the
why?
Why
would they?
I don't know. In the game settings for like when you're in the game, you press the start menu and you go to options, and one of them is to play in like 16:9 mode, and then there's like a cinema mode. That's the word, right?
Cinnamon mode?
Where it will actually put black bars on the top and bottom. Cool. So if you had like a CRT TV, you could still play in widescreen.
Cool.
And then there's just widescreen mode where it'll fill your screen. So that's how I've been controlling it. But the game itself, other than most of these N64 games, they're just visually difficult. They just don't look good. This one's like kind of charming because they've like image mapped people's faces from the movie onto.
It's such a bizarre choice.
These like avatars.
Yes, but it's a 2D image.
Yeah, that's right.
Been like stamped on a stick figure.
Yeah. So you have like Sean Bean,
right?
And what is his name? He plays
Brosnan.
No. There is not one for Pierce Brosnan.
What?
Yeah, it's like supporting characters.
Oh. Okay.
What's the name of like the hacker guy? He is. This is gonna bug me. But anyways, they're all over the place. And one thing I again am finding really interesting about Goldeneye is it has like a really unique mission structure. So before you go into each level, it tells you there's like a little dossier that you can go through. And it tells you what your objectives are, what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
And one thing that's different about this game than a lot of other games is there's no like map marker or anything that is guiding you to those objectives. So you can go through a level and miss an objective or not complete an objective, and then you exit the level, and then it tells you you failed.
Didn't do it.
You failed the mission because you didn't do this. And so, I mean, truthfully, I'm using a guide because I find a lot of this really obtuse. But you are It's very easy to miss things unless you know where you're going or you're scouring like every piece of the level, which I think is what it was like designed to do.
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, like they only had so much real estate, like so much. First of all, so much data, and so much like budget developed to like actually making these spaces. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, you just got to like go into every single little crevice to actually accomplish all of the tasks.
But once I found a control scheme that worked for me, and I found a guide that I could refer to when I got lost.
Yeah,
I'm having a lot of fun.
that's great.
Like I think it's I don't know that I would say that it holds up, but I am definitely enjoying my time with it.
Alan Cumming.
Yes, that's it.
Playing Boris Grishenko.
Yes, very good.
Couldn't find a Russian guy, so when
it was the 90s, why bother?
Yeah, that's. I mean, what a great point. All right, Mark. Let's get into how's this transition work? That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, Tuesday, January 31st, SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake is releasing on Switch. I feel like we're highlighting this one for shout out to listener Jake.
Hey, Jake.
Who's very excited for this game.
Hope you're enjoying this. This is a new SpongeBob game, right? Like,
yeah.
In the vein of the previous SpongeBob, like 3D action platformers. Not action, just 3D platformers. But yeah, it's out tomorrow.
I think if I had to guess, SpongeBob is probably bigger now than it's ever been because it has young fans, but it also has, I mean, SpongeBob has been around for for probably 20 years.
Right. I mean, we've talked about this before on the show, I think, but like, I feel like I'm just on the like too old side to have like been riding the SpongeBob wave. So like, that's just one of those like fandoms that like I see and I'm like, oh.
I know. I'm sorry because SpongeBob is very funny.
So do you consider yourself as being like in that way? Because I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. I think I was a little older than the target audience when the show was first coming out.
Right.
But I had younger siblings who watched it and really loved it, and it is. It's been a long time since I've seen any of the new episodes, but the show is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also on Tuesday or today is Power Wash Simulator, digitally released for Switch.
Highlighted that just for you, Mark.
Thank you. I don't really know anything about this game, but I've seen it everywhere. So it's kind of, I think it's like a hit because can't you like power wash like Lara Croft's
I don't know,
home or something? I feel like that was like
her
DLC.
Home? I was not expecting that sentence to end that way. No, but I mean,
power wash Lara Croft
Lara
after
Croft,
one of her missions. She's muddy.
Yeah,
hose
of
her
course.
off. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. Wednesday, February 1st, Puzzle Bobble 2X and Bust-A-Move 2 Arcade Edition and Puzzle Bobble 3 Bust-A-Move 3 S Tribute are released digitally.
So the Puzzle Bobble games, the Bust-A-Move games are cool. Little, it's the Bubble Bobble and like shooting the little puzzly games that are neat. So I thought would highlight this like collection of them that's coming out here.
And then on Thursday, February 2nd, Life is Strange 2 releases on Switch, which completes all of the Life is Strange games being available on the platform.
Yep, they're all there now. Okay, any of those of interest to you, Mark? You think you can pick up any of these?
No, I just want to shortly shout out on February 3rd on Friday, Pets at Work. This game called Pets at Work is being released on the Switch eShop. I don't know what it is, but I am curious what they're working at or towards.
Oh, sure. I mean, I assume it's just, you remember there was a comedy in the 90s called Men at Work?
Yes, I do.
It's a movie, and all I really know about it is the poster, right? Where it's two guys in the back of a like a trash truck,
okay,
a garbage truck, and they're just like poking their heads up over the over like the lip of the they're like in the compactor part of the truck, and they got like hard hats on.
And so you're just imagining that, but with pets.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, it sounds good,
That's a cute
right?
Image.
It's evocative. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are discussing the 10 longest running comic book series that haven't had a major refresh. This is a list that is coming to us from Comic Book Resources. So if that helps you calibrate your answer.
It doesn't.
But
well, thank you.
I want you to know these are all superhero series.
Okay.
So like Archie, throw it out.
Hi.
Even though like
has to be
thousands of it, and no manga in here either. So
what do you think?
Manga?
No. What do you think is what does it mean to be without a major refresh?
Right.
Or is that giving away too much?
So I think it's giving away too much. So like I think what you want to do here is you want to go for titles that you just like the name of the series is iconic.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough.
And these are all.
Are they all DC?
They're not all DC, no,
Okay.
but they're all big two.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's actually really helpful.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna.
That's DC and Marvel for people not super plugged into that.
I'm going to start with Detective Comics.
Detective Comics is number 2. They have it at 881 issues, which I guess their cutoff is the new 52.
Oh, okay, got it.
Where they say.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I was wondering. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So we've got like some of the Grant Morrison stuff in there towards the end. But yeah, 882 issues.
So Action Comics has to be in here as well.
Action Comics is number 1. They're saying, again, using the new 52 as a cutoff, 904 issues.
Wow.
But I know that DC reclaimed that numbering at some point, and they did an Action Comics 1000. Like, they did that.
Yeah. So, yeah, but they must be... New 52 counts as a major refresh, so anything after it doesn't count for the purposes of this list. Although it probably doesn't matter because one way or the other, Action Comics is probably still... the longest running.
Yeah, and I think Action Comics will always be the highest numbered. I do think and I'm giving one of these entries away, I think it's possible that Amazing Spider-Man can catch up. There was a while when they would do 3 issues of Amazing Spider-Man a month.
Right.
3 a month. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So Amazing Spider-Man is on here.
Okay.
But insanely, they only have it at like 400 or something issues. The Amazing Spider-Man, 441 issues, which doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like they're cutting it off before Dan Slott started writing it.
Interesting. I wonder what happened that... Anyway, so Action Comics, if you don't know, is the Superman comic. Detective Comics is the Batman comic. And, I mean, there's obviously other Superman comics and other Batman comics, but those are like the ones in continuity. And
you may want to consider one of
those
again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Justice League one of these?
Justice League does not appear on this list. No. Oh no.
Oh wow, man.
Oh, we have really run.
I'm really curious. Will you run down the list?
Yeah, sure. We were accompanied today by the Berlin Philharmoniker, but the rest of the list, number 3 is Batman.
Okay.
It was 713 issues. And again, that's cutting it off before the new 52, which was still 10 years ago at this point. Number 4 is Uncanny X-Men, 544 issues. Then The Incredible Hulk, 474 issues. Captain America, 454 issues as well. Amazing Spider-Man, 441. Number 8, Fantastic Four, 416 issues, and their cutoff here is Heroes Reborn. So obviously there have been Fantastic Four series since then. The Avengers, 402 issues, and at number 10, Daredevil, 380 issues before getting a major reboot.
I would not have gotten those. I would not have guessed so many Marvel titles.
It's a lot of Marvel titles, but like the Marvel titles still get like just trounced by the long-running DC titles. Weird that Superman isn't.
Yeah.
That Superman doesn't have that. Action Comics, yes. Superman, no.
Maybe Superman's been like quote-unquote rebooted too many times.
Maybe that's it. It's true that for this exercise, reboot or a major, what did I say?
Major refresh.
Major refresh is perhaps ill-defined here. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
IGN is reporting that Xbox, Sony, and Nintendo all plan to skip the rebooted E3 this June.
Speaking of reboots, major refresh.
Yeah, I'm I think we kind of expected Xbox to do its own thing, because it's been doing that for a few years, and probably Sony to do its own thing because they've been doing that for a few years.
I mean, Sony hasn't even really been coordinating with, they haven't even done like video presentations around the time of E3.
Right, because Xbox, they stopped participating in E3 and then set up shop. Literally right across the street from the LA Convention Center at
Hilariously
LA Live.
Close, yes.
And so it's like it was still part of like the E3 experience. You would literally just like walk across the street and go check out what Xbox is doing and then go back to the E3 show floor. But and it kind of sounds like they're planning to do that again this year. So
okay, so that is my question, because like really all it means is that those three companies won't have presences on the E3 show floor.
So I think the biggest surprise here is for me is Nintendo, because for whatever reason it felt like Nintendo was ride or die a little bit with E3.
Right.
The other companies were doing their own thing, but Nintendo like stuck with it.
Well, so I wonder if, because so much of what Nintendo's E3 presence was, and it's exclusive. It's an exclusive experience of the people who are actually there. Is that they have this enormous booth that's like way bigger than anybody else's. Only PlayStation's, the couple years that I went, that PlayStation was there, could like rival it in size. And they like deck it out like a theme park, right? Famously for the Breath of the Wild year, they had it like all done up like Hyrule. The Super Smash Brothers year, it was like all of these like giant trophies of like Nintendo memorabilia.
For Luigi's Mansion 3, they had people bet like these pink bellhop costumes that would chauffeur you into this like blacklit kind of haunted house almost experience to play the game.
Yeah, it's a theme park experience, and I wonder if Nintendo is just like, no, we're just doing a theme park experience now. Go to Universal, right? Like if they're like having that itch scratch somewhere else.
Yeah, and maybe when contacted by IGN, ReedPop, the company contracted by the ESA to run the show starting this year, they issued a lengthy statement to IGN, which I'm going to read in full here, so bear with me. E3 is such a significant event for the game industry, and being entrusted with an important cultural touchstone is not a responsibility ReedPop takes lightly. Since ReedPop took on the contract to run E3 6 months ago, we've worked diligently with ESA members based on their feedback to create a new type of E3 that supports their goals and needs. This process has taken time due to the tremendous amount of stakeholders offering input, though we appreciate that we could have been more transparent to questions for which we were still finalizing the answers. We continue to work tirelessly to create a show that brings together the global gaming industry. We believe we've created a new format for the event that serves the needs of both the industry and its fans, and are committed to building and growing it in the coming years. As we spent much of 2022 refining how E3 2023 would take shape, reflecting on the feedback we solicited, we did not send a single contract to an exhibitor until the start of this month. We have received a tremendous amount of interest and verbal commitments from many of the biggest companies in the industry, and when we are ready to announce the exhibitors, we are confident it will be a lineup that will make the trip to Los Angeles well worth it for the industry and consumers alike.
So it is true that what ReedPop has been tasked with is reviving a show, right? Like,
yeah, tough.
It hadn't just like declined in reputation. It declined in reputation for like a decade and then died. Like this thing was gone, and so they had to like reinvent it and reinvent a lot of the relationships and a lot of just like the expectations. Really, all they have is the name.
Yeah, and so it will be interesting to see what E3 evolves into. I don't think anybody wants E3 to die. It's such a Patrick's kind of.
I don't know.
You actively are rooting against E3.
No. But if it dies, would I be more sad or less sad than when the Divine Dragon's mother dies in Fire Emblem Engage? I don't know.
I do think that's the rubric by which we should judge all things going forward,
Yes.
though. But like E3 was such a fun, and maybe it is fine for E3 to go away, and things will spring up in its place.
Sure, yeah.
But
I think that's kind of what I'm driving at,
and I think that's fair. The industry has evolved, clearly. Microsoft feels fine doing its own thing. Sony has done its own thing. Nintendo does its own thing and then has a presence on the show floor.
Right.
I think what I definitely appreciated about E3 was it was such a concentrated, like every day you were just getting something crazy.
Every
like,
day you're texting your friends being like, can you believe this?
And then, and that had not really been the case in the few prior years before E3 like went away for a little bit, but it was always, for us anyways, true of Nintendo, because we knew that Nintendo was going to have a showcase. Last year E3 didn't happen, and Nintendo like had half of a showcase in June, the partner showcase. I'm curious if this means that this year, like, Nintendo is totally freed up on timing now, because if they're not participating in E3, they're not tied to E3. Last year, it seemed like we got this partner showcase because they were at the end of June, because they were contractually obligated when they presumably had E3 plans for 2022.
Right. And a lot of these marketing plans are so long out anyway that, like, yeah, they were probably making these deals to show something in June before they knew, like, oh, no one's really doing E3.
Exactly. So I think it'll be kind of as fans, as people who look forward to those Nintendo showcases, I think it will be a little bit of a bummer if this means that we don't necessarily get like a big presentation in June. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom will be out for 4 weeks when E3 happens this year.
Right.
So we were talking about, was it last week or the week before, what could Nintendo's E3 look like? Now I don't think we have to worry about that.
But I mean, maybe we do. Like the maybe all this means is that there is not a Nintendo booth at the show, right? Like they could still be doing a presentation. It could still be a Tuesday morning, whatever. Like they could reclaim their own time and all that garbage. But like maybe they just don't have a thing that is, booth worthy. Because Tears of the Kingdom, like we say, is already going to be out. Like it doesn't make any sense to tease that as like a world that you want to live in when you've been living in it for 4 weeks, right? So like if it's just a bunch of like, we've talked about there's a possibility of like all these like GameCube ports and stuff like that, remakes, remasters. Maybe none of that is like fits that mold, but would still look nice in a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah. And like you said, only very few people could experience the in-person, booth. So maybe it just isn't worth like the time, especially after, or in the money, especially after a few years of not having an E3. They've had to, I'm sure, find other ways to continue the connections, like business, meetings and stuff that normally you would have in an industry event like that. So maybe they really just have evolved beyond the business need for something like having a booth at E3.
I mean, I wonder how much like these publishers will have people at E3, and like be setting up like meetings in like rooms in hotels and conference rooms in hotels and stuff like that. That like you can still conduct E3 like business without having a booth on the show floor.
Right.
And I think that's what all of like smaller publishers and smaller outlets do. So like, why not the big guys also do that? And like in the example of Microsoft, like they just have their own space to do that. So like Nintendo could also just like have their own space somewhere else by LA Live and just do it.
Yeah. And again, like E3 is changing a lot. They're being really explicit about like this is for industry, this is for fans, like it's definitely a different experience, and maybe people are just kind of seeing how it goes this year. And maybe Reed Pop was saying they could only they started sending out proposals or contracts, whatever, like this month, and maybe that was just too late for some of these big companies. Because I'm sure putting together a booth like that is really big. So who knows what'll happen in the future? If this is if E3 is really successful this year, maybe with more time, and they're able to resolve some of the concerns or whatever the reason that some of these companies aren't participating.
Yeah, I wonder how long they're committed to the idea of running the show before it like becomes huge again. Like, it's always one of the like things in like to be successful in gaming, you have to be in it for the long haul. Like, just seems to be the sort of common refrain, right? Like, Google Stadia closed down a couple weeks ago, even though Google was like, "We're in this," till the bitter, like, we are serious about gaming, and they were in it for like 5 or 6 years, but now it's gone, right? Like, I just think there has to be this like, we're committed to do this even when it loses money, even when it's not as culturally relevant as it used to be. And that's the only way to build up that reputation.
Yeah.
But that's also like sunken cost fallacy and all this kind of stuff too. So like, I don't know. Well, this is something that we'll reflect on in 5 years, and everything we say now will sound ridiculous.
That doesn't sound like us.
I don't think so.
Speaking of a Nintendo Direct, we're definitely in Nintendo Direct watch mode.
Well, so let me ask you this. We're in watch mode, not warning mode.
I don't think so.
I think warning implies that a Nintendo Direct has made landfall.
Yeah, I think so too. Normally,
just the conditions are right for one.
Yeah. Our like legs are achy.
That's right. The
Our
barometric
hands are swelling.
Pressure is dropping.
High.
Yeah.
So we're on alert, but we're not on high alert.
Mm-hmm.
But some things that are maybe piquing people's interest. The Nintendo Switch eShop pages for, get this, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp plus Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom have both been updated, including new NSUID codes, which I had never heard of before today, and I still don't entirely know what they are.
Don't really get it, but my understanding is that they are required for the purchasing or pre-ordering of these games.
Okay, and so also another data point is that some North American retailers, including in the US, have begun taking digital pre-orders for Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp again.
So, seems like that game incoming?
Yeah. Like a year after it was delayed for the second time, or a year,
long time.
Basically a year after it was delayed for world circumstances. So, all of this points, like you're saying, to it coming soon. It'll be interesting to see how they reintroduce it to the world. They probably will just be like, hey, here's this game, and it's coming out on this date. I don't think they're going to be like, world events are over.
No. I mean, definitely not. But I think they could even reintroduce it and be like, the legendary Advance Wars returns.
That
with
sounds
this,
exactly like how
I'm writing the copy. Which is like a 17-second video of gameplay, and probably the more like cartoony, less tank-filled versions of it on the screen. But is this evidence of a forthcoming Direct, or is this just like they're gonna drop a trailer and say like the game is out in March?
Right, and maybe it is throat clearing for a Direct, and maybe it's something else entirely. Here's another thing, is that maybe Nintendo is bringing the Nintendo Switch Online game vouchers program back to North America. Last night at like 6 p.m. Pacific time, a video was briefly published on Nintendo's YouTube channel announcing the return of game vouchers, but then shortly after, the video was made private. So seemingly it was published too early, but is primed to go. So maybe by the time this episode is released, they've already announced it on Twitter or whatever.
Let's talk about what the game vouchers were. Game vouchers were something that you could purchase for like $100, right? $99.
Yep.
That would be good for the purchase of 2 first-party Nintendo games
on the eShop.
So
basically, you're saving $20. Normally, you would spend $120. You buy this set of vouchers up front for $99, and then you had like a year to use it from the day that you purchased.
Right. And wasn't there a limit to the number of vouchers you could buy lifetime? It was like
Yeah,
3
maybe
of
there
them or
was. I
something
don't
like
remember.
that?
It was like 8, I think.
Oh, I thought way lower.
No, yeah, but I think you're right. I think there was. And Nintendo never, this program has been going strong in outside of North America since it was introduced. It never went
Oh.
away in Europe. It never went away in Japan. It
Oh.
only went away in North America for unknown reasons. They retired it. In July of 2019 was the last time you could buy them.
So the video announcing the return of vouchers appeared, was taken down. So is that part of a direct, or is this all? Because there were a couple other like trailers and announcement videos, some of which we'll be talking about in a minute, that went up on Nintendo's YouTube today, and like that can just be like what they're doing instead of a direct. Like I'm having a hard time actually like parsing out the signs here. Like, are these indicative of, like you say, some throat clearing for like, and now here's the cool stuff that we want to tell you about, or is this it?
So the one thing that makes me think that a Nintendo Direct is not imminent is that normally there are certain, like insiders online who are basically, heavily hinting that, a Nintendo Direct is coming soon, that kind of like builds up the frenzy. So unless they've decided, like, maybe they don't know, maybe Nintendo is really playing it close to the vest and they are going to just drop it, and surprise everybody. The fact that we haven't been hearing like whispers of a date, that people are really, like that there's no chum in the water, makes me think that it's either super secretive or we're actually not that close.
Right. One, it's also like, why would it be that secretive? And I guess we wouldn't know until it pops. Right?
I mean, I think Nintendo generally would love for these to be kept secret.
Totally.
But they just like leak. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. But like, yeah, what I don't know that there is I guess outside of like Metroid Prime related stuff, that there is like a Megaton style announcement that we're expecting out there. Like, we get more information about Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, great. Like, we're as excited as we're going to be for that game, right?
Well, normally in like the early of the year directs, we get a little bit more clarification on what is going to be happening in the rest of 2023, which we don't really. I mean, we know Pikmin 4 is like out there somewhere, but otherwise we don't really know. The other thing is that normally in February we have like a Pokemon Day.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, that I would expect to happen because I anticipate there's going to be something Pokemon this year, whether they're going to announce DLC for Scarlet and Violet, or, there's like another mystery dungeon game or something coming. You know what I mean?
But I mean, those are also like those announcements have less wattage. Even something like Scarlet and Violet DLC, which I'm sure will do very well for them, are just like less exciting than like, here's a new mainline Pokemon game, which we had like 3 of last year, effectively, right? No, not even effectively, just like we did have 3 of them. So yeah, I don't know. It just
if I had to bet money, I would say yes, we're still going to have a Nintendo Direct in the first quarter of the year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it just makes sense.
I would guess that too. It hasn't not happened in February or March in the last like 10 years.
Yeah,
so.
I just don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. All of this said, who knows? By the time you're listening to this, maybe that was just 10 minutes wasted.
That's right.
Of us bloviating about.
Should we go back and erase it all, Mark? Would that make you happy?
A new clip of the Super Mario Brothers movie appeared online over the weekend. The scene takes place during the arena battle that we saw in like the last trailer between Mario and Donkey Kong. And the clip is notable because it features the Super Bell power-up and Cat Mario.
The best power-up as determined by Yumi and Christian.
And then Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong voice for the first time. We're hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, no surprise. He sounds like Seth Rogen.
He does sound like Seth Rogen.
Dude has a very identifiable voice
and
is not really doing much to hide it here.
Hey, he was hired for a job. That job was to be Seth
doing
Rogen.
The job. Well, yeah. Does this change your view on that? No. I mean, we're in at this point.
We're also really close. It also when this popped, it made me realize, we're really close to the opening of Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios.
Real soon.
So we still got to talk about doing a meetup.
Yes.
We still have to plan that.
Well, yes.
Note to self.
Notes to selves.
The Square Enix music game Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is getting a demo on Switch ahead of its February 16th release date. The demo goes live on Wednesday, February 1st.
Which is very exciting. It includes 30 songs, 30 characters. You can play up to level 30. I don't know what any of those specifics mean. There are characters in this game? Great. And progress will transfer over to the full version of the game when it releases. Mark, two things. One, I'm a little annoyed that bar line in the title are two separate words when there's a musical term that is bar line, which they're referring to, and doesn't make sense if they're not. Do you know what I mean? Bar line as separate words.
Well, maybe it's a purposeful, and maybe that's why we have to download the demo.
Yeah, we'll find out.
A purposeful pun that plays on bar line, but one of the mechanics in the game is you go into a bar and try to pick up people with a line.
Right, sure. That you're giving people lines to try and, or maybe there's a fishing mini game in there. I don't know. So A, that. B, I'm absolutely going to check out this demo because conceptually Theatrhythm is a type of game that I should be excited about, right? But I don't really have my head. Rhythm games where you're not playing a musical instrument or rapping, I have a tough time wrapping my head around.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm trying to think of one that I've played that, of course,
Elite
Rhythm
Beat.
Heaven.
Yeah, both these.
But I wonder, because there's so much DLC with this one.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can I wonder if they'll do a Game of the Year edition or whatever later.
Totally.
Whatever that has all the DLC included.
That would be nice. That's not really a Square Enix move, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And just we're never going to get...
more of an Ubisoft move.
That's more of an Ubisoft.
And
just
look where that got them.
We're never going to get a version of Chocobo Racing GP or whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, that's because I think that game did real bad.
But they shouldn't. It only did real bad because it had this insane monetization scheme. If they'd just been $40, race all you want, it would have been fine.
But you're right. It's not really a move that we see Square Enix do. But yeah, I will be interested to hear your opinions if you do pick up the demo.
I'll absolutely pick up the demo. The demo cost me nothing.
Nintendo released a video on Monday announcing that MLB The Show 2023 is coming to Switch. So this is the second year that MLB The Show, developed by Sony Interactive Entertainment San Diego Studios, it's making its way to non-PlayStation platforms. If you'll recall, 2 years ago, as part of the renewal with Sony and Major League Baseball for Sony to continue to develop this game, part of the agreement was that it would be multi-platform. And so I think, at least for the term of that contract going forward, we can expect MLB The Show to show up on Switch or whatever the next Nintendo hardware is. But nice to see confirmation. It launches not that long from now, March 28th.
Yeah, and it remains cool and novel to me that there has to be a PlayStation Studios logo at the beginning of a Nintendo game that you're playing.
I also hope that the next time we see a trailer or something for this game, that it has that coach puppet character.
Oh, right.
Who I guess is a beloved mascot of the series, but I
forgot about that coach puppet.
Maybe his just name is Coach or Champ or something, but I love that guy.
Maybe it's the coach.
It's the coach.
I think there's a definite article in there.
Yeah, love that puppet. A Boy and His Blob retro collection has been announced for Switch and Xbox and PlayStation. The collection includes 2 games, the NES's A Boy and His Blob, Trouble on Blobolonia, and the Game Boy's The Rescue of Princess Blobette, which is one of the few Game Boy games that I owned.
Mark, that's the reason why I included this story in our news roundup here. Does this interest you? Are you?
I don't think so. I think if I was going to, I owned a Boy and His Blob on Game Boy, had zero idea how to play it or beat it. So I could get out of the first room, and then you fall down a long pit, and then you kind of have 2 options. You could go to the left and fall down another pit, which takes you then to...
I love how clear this is in your brain.
Which takes you to kind of this corridor that you can run to the right, and then that ends at a dead end. But in the room at the dead end, there's 3 diamonds or crystals you can jump up and get. And then if from that first drop, if you go to the right, it takes you you fall down this really long really high point to the ground, and then you run to the right, and you can see Blobette like caught in a tower, and so you can jump up, but you can't get to her or anything. And I never, for the life of me, could figure out how to beat this game. But I must have played the first like 5 minutes of it over and over and over.
Because you have a vivid memory of it. The whole conceit of these games is that they're like impossibly obtuse, right? That you have this blob who is your companion, and you can make him do different things that like allow you to access different areas by feeding him jelly beans. You can turn him into a step ladder, into a spring, into a hang glider, into a hole that you climb through. So like it's all of the like worst impulses of like a point and click adventure game where it's like you can't intuit the solution. How are you supposed to know to give him a purple jelly bean? But like if you just have the information, is it fun to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I think if I was going, so I'm not super interested in this, but if I was going to get a Boy and His Blob game, I would get the one that Majesco made for Wii.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a reboot and has a hug button.
It does have a hug button.
That's the one I would play.
It's got like a cute like animated style.
Yeah, like hand draw or like.
And it was re-released on Switch.
It was, yeah, it's available on Switch. So if I was going to play one, that is the one I would get. However, this does look like a fun package if you're interested. It includes both US and Japanese versions of the game. There's no release date yet, but there's a limited. It's being released by a limited run, and they're also doing physical versions that includes keychains that look like the cartridges of the original games. And seeing the Game Boy cartridge on a keychain, it is bringing back a lot of memories.
I'm sure
that's exactly what it looked like. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the physical version from limited run is that includes these keychains is $65.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Which is steep.
Finally, Splatoon 3's next Splatfest has been announced, and it's running from February 11th through the 13th, and the theme is What's Your Favorite Chocolate?
And I just got to point out, the themes have now just moved into just like a question, right? It's not even really like finding an iconic trio anymore. It's not who's your favorite stooge. Or musketeer, or whatever. It is now what's your favorite chocolate?
So teams are dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate.
Yeah. How do you think this is gonna go? Do you is there an like easy favorite that you see here, where we're gonna see like lines among like culture or age or gender? Like what are you seeing here, Mark?
I think
apply your deep analytical eye here.
That's right. I think based on my ability to keep the pulse.
That's right.
Of the common man.
That's right.
I'm going to say milk chocolate is not highly favored.
You don't think milk chocolate is highly favored?
No. Milk chocolate. I'm an idiot. White chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
White chocolate, not highly favored. Dark chocolate and milk chocolate, I think, will be surprisingly close, but I think milk chocolate will take it.
Just in terms of number of votes.
Yeah.
I feel like the sophisticate's choice, and therefore my choice, because I am an intellectual and a tastemaker, Mark, is
it's very difficult for me to keep the pulse on what you're thinking. It's so advanced. It's so
I'm going dark chocolate all the way here.
Not like me, not like the common man.
Are you
Mark Mitchell?
Are you I never realized this was our dynamic, but it's true. It's true. I'm the hoity-toity one. You're the down-to-earth one. No.
My favorite stooge is Curly.
And mine is Mo. Is that right? Is that how that would break down?
That's how I was pretty close. Yeah.
What about Musketeers? There's no way to even know which one is which.
The only one.
It's D'Artagnan.
Name I know is D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan. All right, Mark. Let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, you should follow us on Twitter. The show's Twitter is at NinCart Society. We also have a Discord, which you should get in. You should email us or tweet at us to get a link to that, get an invitation. The email is nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.